And the censorship wars continue. This time on Facebook. You see that message there? Did any of you know that a meme can now be means for a 2-day suspension on Facebook because apparently people are now copywriting their memes? This is why I couldn't update our Facebook page or Facebook group in regards to tonight's broadcast, because I posted that YouTube video on a Facebook page, making light of all the maniacs who were out at Dealey Plaza thinking that JFK Jr. was going to return. Anyway, I am your host, Jerry Vasilatos, and I welcome you all to Chicago Corner this evening. I just had to start the show with that, though, because of just how utterly ridiculous it is that censorship, the censorship wars continue, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook. I know Twitter. Apparently, Twitter's like lifted some of the restrictions that they normally hit people with, or they're becoming a little bit more open. I don't know. I haven't had any problems with Twitter yet, but I just thought that utterly ridiculous that I got a 3-day timeout because I posted that goofy Chihuahua humping Trump. This is how Oreo feels about it, showing us his rear end. Anyway, I hope you've all had a good week and got a little chuckle out of that. Let me show it one more time, just because it is ridiculous. Who would have imagined that can get you a 3-day strike on Facebook because memes are now copyrighted? Will you get your butt out of my face, Oreo? Come on. Get out of the way. I got to move my keyboard so he doesn't step all over it. Anyway, we are waiting on my co-host, Kit Cabello, to log in. Apparently, there's some technical issues on his end with his camera not connecting, but he is scheduled to join me tonight. I just figured I'd start the show on time in the hopes that at some point he might be able to jump in here. Let's go to the live chat and say hello to everybody. Let's see what's going on here. The usual suspects: Arturo Medina, War Deer Entertainment, E. Heller. Who else is joining us in the live chat tonight? It was a copyright from Facebook for a meme video. Yeah, crazy. Yes, War Deer Kitty is here, showing us his rear end as always, putting it in my face. And yes, this is family-friendly Chicago Corner. I think one of my other cats just knocked something down in the back room there. Anyway, it's been a more newsworthy week. There have been some interesting stories that have developed that I'm going to share with you tonight. I was going to start the show with the story that comes to us from the Southeast side on the EPA apparently not finding the air quality report of any concern. But I'm going to save that story for when Kit can join us, because I know that this is a subject that is very close to him, that he's passionate about, especially as it relates to Matt Asphalt and their environmental racism on the Southeast side, polluting the air that drifts not only over that neighborhood, but across the whole city. So I will instead start tonight's show with this particular story. Let me bring this up here. Are we there? Oh, wait, I didn't want myself there. I wanted myself up there. There we go. So there's been quite an uproar this past week, as apparently the McDonald's CEO likes to victim blame. This came to us from Eyewitness News Chicago. I'm going to run their video, and then I'll get into their article, because this CEO, if you didn't need another reason not to eat at McDonald's aside from the really crappy food that causes arteriosclerosis and clogs up your arteries and is probably prone to causing all kinds of other health issues. Let's listen to this story here. This is really quite. I'll just play it.
Demonstrators, including one wearing a Ronald McDonald Halloween outfit, descended on McDonald's headquarters to protest comments made by company CEO Chris Kempczynski about the killings of Adam Toledo and Jaslyn Adams last spring. Toledo was shot by police after running down an alley with a gun in his hand, which he dropped at the last second. Adams was gunned down, and her father, who police called a known gang member, was wounded in the drive-thru of a Westside McDonald's when two men opened fire on their vehicle. The next day, after Mayor Lori Lightfoot visited McDonald's corporate offices and met with Kemsinski, he texted her and referenced the shooting, saying, "With both, the parents failed those kids," which I know is something you can't say, even harder to fix. Lightfoot did not respond directly to those comments, but texted back, "Terrible tragedy," in reference to the McDonald's shooting.
It is unacceptable, ignorant, and racist that the CEO of McDonald's have put this responsibility on the families.
The mayor's spokesperson issuing a statement in response to the release of the text, saying in part, "Victim shaming has no place in this conversation."
We don't want you to talk bad about Adam Tomato's family or Javen's Adams family.
Protesters bringing with them fake Happy Meal boxes with messages critical about McDonald's and also
McGarbage, that's for sure.
The parents of Chris failed him by raising.
I think that's the McDonald's CEO right there in the background over her shoulder.
But cannot pay the hardest of his workers at least $15.
Exactly. Thank you.
Another alderman said the protest was misguided in calling out the McDonald's CEO.
I don't think there should be an.
Of course.
What he said.
Local authoritarian Ray Lopez.
Situations that have made headlines in the city of Chicago. It is a fact that parents are failing their children.
In an email
Another
to
victim
company
blamer
employees viewed by
who wants to pour more of our money into the police
says his
department.
text lacked empathy and compassion, and that he was wrong not to take into consideration the viewpoints of the family. Protesters are still calling for him to resign.
So where do you start with this particular story? If you can't say it, then don't say it. Obviously, the CEO didn't figure that his text message was going to go public like that, but it really does reflect, I guess, the way that these ivory tower CEOs and rich people running companies that don't want to pay their employees a fair living wage. I'll tell you what, Chris Kempinski, if you want to maybe help those families that you want to victim blame, maybe you ought to pay your workers who might have some of those kids more money so they can actually take care of those kids and have better lives and provide for their families. I don't know. I just think that it just completely reflects the tone deaf attitudes of so many people at the top. For this guy to decide to victim blame Toledo and Jocelyn Adams. Adams was innocent. Toledo got mixed up with the wrong people, although he did not have a weapon in his hand when he was shot. We all followed that story earlier this year, and both situations were tragic. So I don't know, guys. I haven't been eating at McDonald's myself lately. I usually only go through there for their breakfast sandwiches. I think it's the only safe thing you can eat there. But this really pisses me off that this guy makes that kind of a statement, doesn't think it's going to get out there. And it, what is he doing to make things better for the lives of his workers and then their families? What do you guys think in the live chat? Words of your entertainment, make ass face. Yeah. Yeah, Trish, that was Oreo sharing his butt for all of you to enjoy. Mikraz Al Ghul. And of course, yeah, blaming the parents. The moment some tragedy happens, I think everyone should shut the fuck up. Yeah, Art. And I found something interesting, not Chicago related this week, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. Apparently, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, has decided to go public and use the tragedy that happened on the Rust set with the cinematographer, director of photography being shot to virtue signal he's never going to use live ammunition on his sets. They're going to use rubber guns. They're going to change the standards on their set. That's all good and well, Dwayne Johnson, as much as I like Dwayne Johnson and enjoy his movies. But to get on your soapbox right now and use this tragedy to show how great you are and how in tune you're going to be now in the future when maybe you should have been in tune before. I don't know. I think it would be a little bit more believable than just jumping on the bandwagon now to get headlines in light of what happened on that set. So it looks like we have got Kit available. No more technical difficulties. Hey, Kit, welcome.
Sorry about the technical delays. I thought I could do it on my phone, but I was wrong.
No, that's all right. Actually, it's good that you're in the studio there. It looks good there. So I started the show. I don't know if you guys were monitoring on that end. I started with the CEO of McDonald's blaming the parents of the murdered Chicago children. I don't know if you followed this story or caught what's going on. So apparently the CEO of McDonald's decided to blame the parents of Adam Toledo and another shooting victim, Jaslyn Adams, in a text message to Lori Lightfoot, in which he said, "I know you shouldn't say this, but it's a shame that the parents failed them," or words to that effect. And somehow or another, through Freedom of Information Act, that text message got out, and there was a protest. And let me bring the screen up again, so you can just kind of see without running the video again. It was a pretty big protest. And of course, local authoritarian Alderman Ray Lopez was there to say that parents are to blame. I've been following a little bit of Ray Lopez's record, and he's the guy in city council who wants to pour more money into the police department instead of actually finding proactive solutions instead of reactive ones. But, everybody jumps on the victim blaming bandwagon. In the meantime, a lot of people got together to say that this is just not acceptable, including 25th Ward Alderman Byron Sigjo Lopez.
Well, here's the thing. When we look at the alderman starting to blame the parents, we have to look at we're living in a system that's systematically designed to oppress people. When we look at the Chicago Police Department, how many times we've covered on this show and on Chicago Corner or any other independent media network, how many times we've covered about police corruption and police brutality. It happens all the time here. And unfortunately, the thing is, it's easy for some CEO to say, I blame the parents. What we have to do is blame the police officers that, again, shoot first, ask questions later. We've seen police corruption happen here in Chicago. We've seen police brutality videos. And the thing is, this McDonald's CEO, how much you want to bet he was all in for, trying to, especially during the presidential election cycle, or any of these fast food CEOs or any of these corporate CEOs, how they're all for identity politics or trying to pander to people. But when it comes down to their own personal opinions, they're more than happy to just start blaming people that are not in their inner circle.
Of course. And let's also talk about these CEOs like this McDonald's CEO who claim that if they pay people more than what they're paying them now, your hamburger prices are going to go up. But they're constantly giving raises to CEOs of these corporations like McDonald's. So I was saying earlier, this guy peering down from his ivory tower talking about how families are to blame. He doesn't give a shit about paying families or paying workers that have those families a fair living wage to improve their lives. So, I know it's a very, very distant connection, but it just speaks to how tone deaf some of these corporate executives are when they make comments about people who are in rough circumstances who aren't asking for a handout, they're asking for a hand up. And when you can't even get a hand up and an increase in the minimum wage, maybe to improve some of these families' lives, I think that there is kind of a loose connection to situations that kids in these communities end up stumbling into, or that these communities just don't have the resources to improve people's lives with jobs, with infrastructure, and everything else.
Agreed 100%.
So I'm going to take us to our next story, which I was going to open the show with, and I saved for you because I know it's a topic that is very near and dear to you, that you're very passionate about. I'm going to read from the article first. This came to us from Blog Club Chicago via Sarah Bottolini, and we've talked about this in the past, Kit, all of the environmental racism on the southeast side, and we ourselves have asked, where's the EPA? Well, the southeast side is overburdened with pollution amid metal scrapper fight, air quality report says, but it's below the EPA benchmark for concern. The findings come as activists continue to pressure the Chicago Department of Public Health to reject plans for Southside Recycling, a controversial metal scrapper planned for the east side. The findings come as southeast side activists and neighbors continue to pressure. Okay, they just repeated that headline in the article. It follows the city's own air quality and health report released in 2020 that found south and west side communities bisected by major highways with a high concentrations of industry. Communities like the southeast side are disproportionately affected by pollution. CDPH and EPA leaders hosted a meeting Thursday night on the health impact assessment that will inform whether the city grants an operating permit for Reserve Management Group to open Southside Recycling in the east side. Reserve Management Group owns the defunct Northside scrapper General Iron's assets, and we covered a protest against General Iron. Actually, it was like, I think, the first week that I joined the network. So we're coming full circle here with Adam Toledo and General Iron from February. This week's meeting was the first of 3 planned sessions to share the findings of the EPA's October 21st air quality analysis of Southeast Chicago. And there you go. There's Southeast Chicago there. There's one of those, the planned location for Southside recycling. The air quality study started in April of 2021 in response to arguments long made by Southeast Side neighbors and activists concerned about air quality and how it would be affected if Reserve Management Group opens another metal scrapper in the area. Air quality samples were taken at 2 monitoring sites, George Washington High School at 353 East 114th Street and South Water Filtration Plant at 3300 East Cheltenham Place. The samples were then compared with data from other sites in and around Chicago. The report shows the Southeast Side is overburdened with air pollution when compared with other parts of the city, but it's below the EPA's long-term health benchmark for concern. I don't know what the benchmark is if it's waiting for people to cough up their lungs.
What we're witnessing here is, again, environmental racism on the south side of Chicago and on the west side of Chicago. The sad fact is that when we look at these industrial facilities, they're predominantly built near neighborhoods and communities that have been struggling and that have a lack of funds from the city of Chicago. Now, the thing is, there is a thing called the TIF funds where these poor, low-income communities can be funded properly. But again, through negligence, through corruption, our political machine is more than happy to build industrial facilities to basically, pollute communities. And what this is a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, pollution, dangerous to anyone living in these areas, but on the other hand too, this is a way to help gentrify neighborhoods in which people get displaced. And then when the neighborhoods and the housing and the land is all bought up by corporate people or individuals that have a lot of money, then they clean up the area and then make the neighborhood look nice and then move the quote-unquote right people inside, so that way the city's no longer, represented by, I guess, what the city would deem bad people. But see, the thing is that when we look at environmental racism, it's a tool for gentrification. And this is something that this industrial facility is doing, the Matt Asphalt plant, and numerous other facilities on the south side of Chicago and the west side of Chicago. And again, this is impacting the soil, the air, and the water. And for anyone that moves into these areas that do eventually get gentrified, a little heads up, that pollution is going to be there for quite some time. And from last I checked, the city of Chicago, when it comes down towards protecting its citizens to make sure it has clean drinking water, there's still lead in our drinking water and other dangerous metals that are in our drinking water. So this is a long-term problem, and everyone's going to get hurt. And environmental racism, like I said before, is a tool for gentrification.
Kit, we're getting some sound leak on your end. I don't know if someone's in the Twitch room. It's a little bit loud and it's kind of bleeding in to your audio feed. Is there any way to maybe bring that down on that end? I'm not sure if Phase is operating things or.
We will try and work that out. Unfortunately, okay. I thought I could do it in my radio room, but there was no chance. My phone was not working properly, and well, here I am. So there's other stuff going on in the studio. Okay, no problem. Yeah. Just letting people know in the live chat, they were asking about it, and it's just we have to deal with it. It's not a big deal. I can still hear Kit pretty clearly. We'll just have to deal with a little bit of the background noise. So, Arturo. Pollution needs to be regulated by the law and not by committee, and whoever is causing dangerous pollution should go to prison. So the article goes on to say the levels of metal in the air were below the EPA's benchmark, but in the last 3 years, an uptick in the level of particulate matter was registered, Siegel said. I want to assure you that our agency is partnering with other agencies to investigate this and find out why this is happening. I don't know what other agencies are more powerful than the EPA, so that's very, very troubling. Residents complained about the methods and findings shared in the report. Malia Geertsma, member of the Natural Resources Defense Council, said that she was disappointed by the lack of contextualization of the report. The monitors used for the report are extremely limited, she said, as they only measure the air quality of certain communities, and it didn't examine health impacts on the air quality, which you would imagine has to be a component in the final findings. The report only considered a limited number of pollutants, and it didn't gauge the combined impact of being exposed to all the pollutants at once, Geertsma said. We need to acknowledge that the pollution levels in this community are some of the highest in Chicago. We already know this.
I mean, whether it was that all of that asbestos that was released in the air when they decided to demolish that factory silo, or all the crap that's coming out of Mad Asphalt smokestacks and General Iron's relocation. We need to acknowledge that the pollution levels in this community are some of the highest in Chicago, and if the CDPH is going to comply with its civil rights obligations to address pollution disparities, we have to be honest about that. Several other participants shared their concerns for the lack of consideration to the combined cumulative impact adding another metal shredder would cause. Reverend Matthew Zamanek, community chaplain of the Southeast Environmental Task Force, said experts they work with disagree with the report's findings. We have scholars that work with us with different studies that have disagreed with the analysis presented here, Zamanek said. The panelists said that they'll consider a different format for the next meetings in accordance with the feedback and the complaints of some of the participants that said that the webinar didn't leave enough space for residents' voices. Imagine that. They don't want to hear from the residents. They're just going to, again, it's like by committee. It's not by, it's like what Arturo just said down here. Regulated by the law and not by committee. Absolutely. The next meetings on the findings will be held 5 to 7 p.m. December 2nd. Updates will be posted here. A link on the page. The third session is expected to be scheduled January 22, and the final health input assessment is expected to be released later this month. So you know what's going to happen, Kit? Nothing's going to change, and you're going to see more and more the mortality rate in these neighborhoods rise because of the shitty air that everybody's breathing and choking on, is what I fear is going to be happening.
What we're also going to witness, too, is a rise in people getting different types of ailments. Most notably, cancer will be one of them. And as well as breathing problems, mental health issues will be a problem because, again, with these chemicals, with these pollutants, they impact the human body in different ways, through respiratory issues, through mental health, through cardiac problems as well. And the thing is, the city knows about it. But the thing is, Mayor Lightfoot had the audacity to actually put in someone like Alderman Cardenas, who, again, takes money or knows and has connections to people with the Mad Asphalt plant, but yet he is the head of Chicago's EPA. Interesting world we're living in.
Oh, connect the dots. Arturo says, and he's right about this, if there had been a tragic disaster-type meltdown at 3 Mile Island in 79, there would have been a liability and criminal action and pollution law overhaul. But until some pollution disaster happens, nothing will change, not even Flint can change the laws. If anything you would think would change the laws, it would have been Flint. If anything you would think changed the argument for Medicare for all, it would be this pandemic. But we're through the looking glass where logic doesn't seem to factor into anything anymore.
Well, if we look at Flint, Michigan, again, it's a major area filled with a lot of residents who are dealing with lead poisoning. But if we just look at the city of Chicago, a major metropolitan city, there is also lead in our drinking water, dangerous levels of lead and other dangerous heavy metals and pollutants that are in our drinking water. And yet our city isn't doing a damn thing about it. Mayor Rahm Emanuel's administration turned a blind eye to it, as is Mayor Lori Lightfoot's administration is turning a blind eye to it. They know about the problems. They're just choosing to ignore it because that's how the city is. And that's how these politicians are. So even a major metropolitan city like Chicago, we have lead in our water, and yet that's still not enough to cause our politicians to actually get off their butts and do a damn thing about it.
They're too busy renaming streets, Kit.
Oh, well, yeah, of course. Priorities. I nearly forgot priorities.
I was talking about Moore last show and how he's complaining that Lightfoot's new budget isn't giving enough to his neighborhood. It's like, how many millions did you decide to waste on your little pet project when those millions could have gone into your community, right? Yep. Here you go, Joe Moore, Alderman Moore.
There, right there, like that.
So, did you see a few weeks ago that Fraternal Order of Police President John Catanzara announced that he's going to run for mayor?
Oh yes, this is going to be the beginning of the clown car situation for 2023.
Do you know who just decided to join the clown car?
Oh no! Oh.
Felonious former governor Rod Blagojevich thinks he could oust the mayor. It's our own Chicago reality show. Now, this comes from Mark Conkle over at Patch. It's a short article, but a big takeaway from the reality show being Blago docuseries is our former governor should listen to his wife and leave politics behind. Illinois' felonious former governor Rod Blagojevich should listen to his wife. Patty Blagojevich clearly loves him despite himself, and that's why you should watch the often cringeworthy docuseries Being Blago, set to debut Friday on Hulu. Most of the 4-part series, produced by ABC-owned television station, centers on a fallen political figure desperate for redemption. You can see how badly Rod Blagojevich wants strangers to love him as much as he does a haunting vision of the hero he always wanted to be. The charismatic former federal prison inmate, sprung early from his public corruption sentence by then President Donald Trump, seems to believe that if he were just able to win another election, he could prove to the populace that he really was a fucking good governor. That delusion manifests on camera when a producer asks, "Do you think you could run for mayor of Chicago tomorrow and win?" Blagojevich says, "I think I match up really well with this mayor. I think that's a good race for me," Blagojevich said. "If I were to do it, I could do well in a race like that." Look at poor Kit. He's got his face in his hands. A spokesperson in Mayor Lightfoot's office laughed it off in a statement. "Sounds like he was having a bad hair day. He's demonstrated that he has no idea how to govern, certainly not ethically."
I'm not gonna give up this seat for nothing, man. This thing is effing golden, I tell you.
I think we've been hacked. Kit, you're kind of jumping in and out there. I'm not sure if you have a camera issue over there in the studio.
There is a little bit of an issue.
Okay.
But
I'll continue reading from the article, and we'll see in a moment. Thankfully for us and Blagojevich, both state laws. Ooh, it's really loud over there. I don't know if our.
All right. We'll mute it. We'll mute it real quick.
Hey, tell Kira I said hello from Pegleg Sullivan.
A spokesperson in Mayor Lori Lightfoot's office laughed it off in a statement. "Sounds like he was having a bad hair day. He's demonstrated that he has no idea how to govern, certainly not ethically or legally." Thankfully for us and Blagojevich, both state law and his wife, roadblocks he is trying to overturn in court and seemingly at home, stand in the way of his trying to prove the mayor wrong. What Blagojevich is looking for doesn't exist in politics. He won't find it in the public eye. I know another political figure related to Chicago who thinks he's going to find the same kind of redemption, and that's our beloved Mayor Fuckface Rahm Emanuel. After watching nearly 4 hours of familiar news clips and friendly interviews, I'm certain that Blagojevich's best shot at finding peace in his life is listening to the woman who loves him enough to tell him the truth with cameras rolling. I hope the former governor watches the last bits of episode 4 when Patty Blagojevich, the daughter and sister of former Chicago ward bosses, who stuck by him through 8 years of incarceration and documentary interviews she didn't want to do, shared her vision of what redemption might look like. I hope he can get to the point where he doesn't feel that when he meets somebody new, he has to say to them, "I never let you down. I didn't break any laws," she said. I hope he can get to that point. When the final credits rolled, I did too. All right, so it's interesting that Blagojevich, every time he meets somebody, has to repeat that line, "I never let you down. I didn't break any laws," because he did. And he knows he did. And I would say that instead of doing these reality shows, he's probably banked a lot of money from doing these documentaries and reality shows. I would say former Governor Blago, therapy. I think a lot of that money would really, really be helpful if you just poured it all out to a therapist. So I know that he's been fighting to overturn the law that is not going to allow him to run for public office again. But if he does, the next election could get kind of interesting. Kit, what do you say?
Here's the thing. Being a reporter, I've covered the 2019 Chicago municipal election cycle, and covering this election cycle now, I have to say this, or that what will be 2023. I'm actually looking forward to it. It's going to probably be brain inducing. It's going to cause me a lot of mental problems because, my goodness, Rob Blagojevich, you are definitely out of your element. I don't know what you're thinking about running for mayor for city of Chicago, trying to redeem yourself or do something. I mean, at this point, time to just realize, you had your time in the sun, step aside. And this is just the beginning of further people who will be involved in the next mayoral race. And this is probably how it's going to be in Chicago for quite some time, where you're having 16 or 20 people vying for this seat. And it's going to be just embarrassing for our city. I don't know what Rob Blagojevich is thinking about. I don't know where in his mind he thought this was a good idea.
Hey,
But-
Cabello, I think I know what he's thinking.
This is what he's thinking. He's going to run as a Trump-like candidate.
Well, yeah, he could be that, but
Populist.
think about it this way. It looks like Nine Finger Frodo is going to lose his Japanese ambassadorship, and guess who's going to run for mayor just so he can get his street cred back, and then maybe it'll be Blago goes to Japan in the next reality show.
You just spoiled our next story, Pegleg. You spilled the beans on what our next story was.
I don't know what your next story is, Jerry. I just
it is.
know that Rahm Emanuel guy, he's a piece of work. I will talk to you later, guys.
Piece of shit is more like it.
Agreed. But, I think as a final note for the story about Rob Blagojevich, I do hope I'm at least able to get at least an 8-minute or 10-minute interview with him, whether it's him actually running for office or catching him during a debate, because it's interesting to see the mindset of a lot of these candidates and politicians and where they're coming from. So this election in 2023, who knows if Lightfoot will actually try and run for re-election, or, we'll see if this race gets further crowded. But if it does become a repeat of 2019, I am concerned then for who will be the next mayor of Chicago, because this will impact the people. If we don't have any real clear leadership, then we are going to really be suffering as a city, because we just can't afford inaction or more of these politicians that are trying to get a name for themselves.
Have you, since he was released, have you guys tried to get an interview with Blago for any reason?
You know what? Let's go ahead and open that door. If he's really serious, we'll get it done for the Chicago Corner and for Hard Lens Media.
As much as we make fun of him because he is a character, it would be very, very interesting to witness up close that mind ticking as he's trying to save face over what we know he did. Look, I do think that I'm kind of on the fence regarding his sentencing, because on one hand, maybe they did overdo it until Trump pardoned him, but on the other hand, I thought it was good to send a signal to other politicians that enough is enough, although I do think he was being made an example of by the Democratic machine in Illinois that would never have to suffer the same kind of sentencing for their own crimes. It's because he crossed a lot of people downstate that wanted to just get him out of the way. So I do think that there was a vendetta there. I don't know. It's certainly a fascinating story to continue to follow.
I want to add this about Rob Blagojevich. The thing is, yeah, he got sent to jail, but he really didn't kind of do anything. Like, he was talking about committing a crime. He never did.
He didn't get away with it. He was talking. I mean, we knew what his intent was, and I don't know that the sentencing that he suffered was commensurate with intent, as opposed to actually carrying through and enriching himself. So,
yeah.
Well, speaking of other politicians, here we go. So the U.S. Senate may vote Friday. Well, they may have voted today whether to confirm Rahm Emanuel as ambassador to Japan. However, E. Heller shared this with me. Merkley said he wouldn't support Rahm Emanuel's ambassadorship nomination. Whoop, there it comes. Can you mute over there, Kit? Or let me mute you.
Yeah, you can mute me.
Okay.
Put them into action in the decisions we make. Merkley added in a statement, quote, "I have carefully considered Mayor Emanuel's record in the input of civil rights leaders, criminal justice experts, and local elected officials who have reached out to the Senate to weigh in, and have reached a decision that I cannot support his nomination to serve as a U.S. ambassador."
So in relation to that article, we'll
say more broadly
stop
about
this
the
from
digital media
continuing. The article specifically went on to say, that were highlights, but
Senator Jeff Merkley
here we go
Wednesday
again.
that he will
All
oppose
these technical issues. While I respect Mayor Emanuel's many years of service and the points of view of my colleagues who have come to a different conclusion, I will be voting no when his nomination comes before the committee, Merkley said. Progressives have balked at Emanuel's nomination and urged senators to oppose his nomination over a police shooting of Laquan McDonald in 2014 when he was the mayor of Chicago. And that is like the big issue, that when we've got Biden acting like, this is the best candidate, and Biden promotes themselves as a progressive administration that is sensitive to the rights of people of color, they're going to allow this piece of shit to fail upward, as he has been doing ever since he decided to leave the mayor's office in Chicago. I say in disgrace. Let me play from the. Let me also play from the Fox 32 clip. I'm going to mute you for a moment, Kit.
The full Senate could vote tomorrow on former Mayor Rahm.
This should have been today.
Ambassador to Japan. The Senate Foreign Relations Committee advanced his nomination to a full Senate vote yesterday, despite 2 Democrats voting against him. Progressives don't think he should get the job over how he handled Laquan McDonald's shooting back here in Chicago, but there are several Republicans who say they will back Emanuel.
Adam Kit.
So here's some of the more. You want to talk about someone who's trying to reform his image. Actually, I'm gonna mute you for a moment, Kit, while I read from this. In his opening remarks, Emanuel.
All right, back to one of our other top stories today. Chicago
Whoa.
is one of the first kids in the nation.
Sorry, guys. Juggling a lot of windows here.
And she took that.
Okay. So, in his opening remarks, Emanuel talked about how his mother and father impacted him. For my mother and father, America was a place of possibility. In his wallet, my father carried a photo of the boat that carried him to the United States, Emanuel said. I wish he were here today. While my mother is proud, he would be shocked and amazed that I was sitting here. I'm shocked and amazed he's sitting there and not in a prison cell, given the fact that he covered up the execution of Laquan McDonald. The senior senator from Illinois offered his fulsome support for Emanuel, who also served as former President Barack Obama's chief of staff. This is Dick Durbin. Any mayor who can cobble together a budget with the Chicago City Council is ready for major league diplomacy, said Illinois Senator Dick Durbin in his introduction. Rahm Emanuel's lifetime of public service has prepared him to speak for America on the global stage. If this is who they want to represent America on the global stage, between Trump, Emanuel, and the rest of the shit show going on in Washington, I'd say, as Daniel likes to say, we are in the complete end of decline of American empire.
Well, let's look at who Rahm Emanuel is. He's someone who's loyal to the Democratic machine. He's someone that's loyal to the establishment. He's someone who wants to be rewarded for his years of work for the Clintons, the Obamas, and anyone else of leadership within the Democratic Party. And this ambassadorship to Japan, this is a way of Biden basically saying thank you to Rahm Emanuel for being his good little foot soldier to the Democratic Party. Emanuel, in my opinion, should not have this job as ambassador. He should not have any further position or any kind of job in politics whatsoever, be it at the federal level, state level, city level, or county level. He shouldn't have any position at all, because it's the same mayor that turned a blind eye to lead in our drinking water. The same mayor that covered up the shooting of Laquan McDonald. It's the same mayor that, again, contribute to gentrification to the south and west side communities of the city of Chicago. This is the same mayor that turned a blind eye to city corruption. This is the same mayor that turned a blind eye to police corruption. Rahm Emanuel is a living embodiment of the Democratic establishment and its willingness to continue to play corrupt games. Rahm Emanuel should not get that position of being ambassador to Japan. Rahm Emanuel should be out of American politics, but because the Democratic establishment is so corrupt, this will not be the first, nor will it be the last time we will ever hear of Rahm Emanuel's name. Rahm Emanuel should face justice for his corruption. Rahm Emanuel should, again, be held accountable for his willingness and his administration's willingness to cover up the shooting death of Laquan McDonald. But in this day and age of corruption and inept leadership, Rahm Emanuel will be rewarded for such corruption. And we, the people, are witnessing just, again, how out of touch and really how much of a decline we are in this country.
He's the face of neoliberalism also.
Mm-hmm.
One of the main faces of neoliberalism in the he was with the Democratic Leadership Committee and then with the new face of the DNC.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on to our next story. It's another one of those stories. It's about, more and more of the city dipping into people's pockets and robbing them unjustly. Let's play this story from Channel 2, Chicago. Another investigation on the city ticketing people unjustly.
This is the illegal parking operation. And there is a squad car right there. It's just before game time. Let's go, Sox! At Guaranteed Rate Field as the White Sox take on the Astros in the playoffs. Just a few blocks away from the stadium, some fans are about to get scammed. Watch as the man dressed in a yellow jacket carrying a Chicago White Sox parking sign sets it up to lure in people in need of.
Where are the police finding these people who are faking this parking scam?
There we go.
Dina Morris says she and her husband fell for it on the same stretch of street earlier in the season when the Sox played the Cubs in the Crosstown Classic.
And they had those flashlights waving for people for parking.
They had the orange and yellow vests.
Yeah.
Did that make them appear to be legit?
Yes.
But they were not legit, and everyone parked here got hit with a $75 parking ticket by the city after the game.
The street was full of cars. They were all parked in a single line. And then
So when the street is full of cars, there's supposed to be traffic control, which you would imagine would fall to the responsibility of the Chicago Police Department. And logically also would follow through that the Chicago Police Department would see these people waving people to park along that illegal zone that they ended up ticketing. Look, the meter people or the parking enforcement officers were obviously there. I can't help but imagine if they were there watching and just waiting for their opportunity to pounce without anybody challenging these phony parking attendants that were guiding everybody to park in, I guess, the illegal zone.
night, everyone got their ticket.
Police ticketing the parkers.
Oh, it was the police, not even attendants. It was police.
With no one stopping them and cars still rolling in, we decided to ask them about their operation.
What's happening?
But none of them wanted to talk.
White Sox parking, right? White Sox. Oh, no. You're selling illegal You're selling stickers, man. You're selling stickers. I saw you trying to sell me one.
Kit, I'm speechless when I see this. The cops are out there ready to pounce. They're ready to pounce and ticket everybody, but they're not ready to pounce on the people who are misdirecting motorists to park in what is obviously an illegal area if the police are then issuing tickets.
I wonder if they know the officers there, if there's some sort of secret connection. I mean, it's kind of suspicious when you really think about it.
You can't imagine that they'd be getting kickbacks, do you?
No, never. Not in this city.
No,
Come on.
not CPD.
Not the Chicago Police Department. There's no way that the CPD would be turning a blind eye to people that are trying to scam fellow Chicagoans. Not once, not ever, but it looks like it is.
The article goes on to say, and we saw it in the video, there are cops everywhere. That's why it seems legitimate. I mean, you wouldn't think twice about parking there, said Carl Rojek. As we drove up to these conmen, we're told to pay $20 and park on the street. One man brags about running this operation for 14 years. Been working down here for 14 years, right down here, he said. This long-running scam has cost unsuspecting drivers. After Carl Rojek, I guess it just takes more time to prosecute these phony parking scam people than it does to just issue a ticket and make people try to fight it, but ultimately have to pay the $75 parking ticket.
Yeah. It's
this is just, oh my God, this is infuriating. And it's just aggravating that the police aren't trying to go after the guys that are committing this fraud, said Sladek. Instead, they're gaining income by giving everybody tickets. Back at Guaranteed Rate Field, we told officers about the scam being committed by the team of men. Chicago officers, Kit, do you know what they did? They just drove away.
Oh.
With no one stopping them and cars. And people wonder why we have absolutely no regard for the Chicago Police Department. We're too hard on them. We don't have their backs. We pay all of the lawsuits for the crimes that they commit, the civil rights that they violate. We pour money into their budgets. You've got Fraternal Order of Police John Catanzara trying to dissuade new recruits from taking the exam because the city doesn't have their backs. And then we see this kind of shit.
Well,
what they don't want, what they don't want, where does the city not have cops' backs? In allowing them to, in disallowing them from having to have accountability now. Now that we've seen the crimes that are committed by them, and that's the least bit of enforcement that the city of Chicago is putting on them is accountability. But they don't want the accountability either. With everything else that they get, the shoveling of money into their budgets, the overtime, the covering all of the liability suits. I'm at a loss for words here.
Well, what can you expect from a city that again condones this kind of behavior? This is again atypical of Chicago politics, Chicago policing, and the thing is, this isn't just only happening at White Sox Park. This is happening at Cubs Park. This is happening at where the Bulls and the Chicago Blackhawks play. This is happening at Soldiers Field. This is happening, and even at local school games too. I mean, you see this kind of operation all the time. If you pay attention, if you live in the city, you've seen this kind of scam in one form or another, even at music events, even at events here that are held in the city and in local park areas. You see this kind of operation happen, and there is plenty of Chicago police officers that could stop it. But I'm just wondering how deep this really goes and how they've been protected for so long, and they've never been really held accountable for their actions.
Well, get this. The fine for reselling these permits, these phony permits, $1,500 for each violation. And they're going after people for $75 parking tickets instead of coming down and rounding these guys up and throwing the book at them, taking them in. Where are you getting these permits from that you're selling that you don't have the right to sell in these areas that you're directing people to park that aren't legal? So the Cook County Sheriff's Department stated, on October 12th, Sheriff's Police were assigned to support Illinois State Police patrols on the Dan Ryan Expressway and also provide additional presence in the area of Guaranteed Rate Field to discourage carjackings. While in the area, officers noticed the car parking operation and notified a Chicago Department of Revenue employee who was on the scene before continuing to conduct their assignments. One of the officers took some of the permits from the individuals and asked the Department of Revenue employee if the permits were legitimate. The Department of Revenue employee took the permits from the officer and confirmed they were legitimate, but are not supposed to be sold. Please contact the Chicago Department of Revenue or the Chicago Police Department for questions about what, if any, action was taken in response to the car parking operation. All right. What more can be said? It's just another day in Chicago town, right?
Well, this is just another example of, again, police corruption, police inept at doing their job. And again, you know, what's more important? Tagging someone with a $75 ticket for a bad parking, or stopping someone who's actually giving out these permits. $1,500 for a fine. Find that person. Get that person. Unless whoever's running that operation is connected with someone in City Hall or with CPD. I mean, it's quite simple. If people did the proper investigative work, we would find out how these guys, this operation, how long it's truly been operating. And again, it's not them that are being hurt. It's regular citizens that are being tricked for this.
Dude, I don't even think it's an aptitude. I just don't think they care. It's a choice.
Yeah, true. They
For
have
the police
choice.
department to be out there to see what's going on and not enforce the law and take these phony parking permit scammers, arrest them and question them. That's a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And the police are given orders and direction from, I believe, their watch officers before they go into these situations, these patrol situations. So yeah, I mean, I can't argue with anything you just said.
Agreed.
Whew, my brain is about to blow up. Well, let's move to the last story. The ray, the glimmer of Pegleg wants to chime in here.
Hey, Jerry.
Yeah.
Did you know that the merch store for Chicago Corner now has flavor improving mugs?
I was going to get to that at the tail end of the show.
Oh, we can come back and talk about it later, but right now I would like to promote flavor improving mugs. They are the mugs that improve flavor.
Thank you, Pegleg.
That was our word from our sponsors. Oh, no, anyway. All right, so Arturo said, "Wait, do you think the cops weren't on the scam?" No.
No,
Did
they would never
Did anyone
do
else
that.
plant these signs but the police department? All right, well let's move on to the next story, which might provide some ray of hope after we just waded through all of that muck and swampy Chicago corruption. This story came from Block Club Chicago, and I want to thank our colleague Lainey Peterson for sharing it with us because I found that it is an inspirational story. This comes from Pascal Sabino. West Side man is honored for building a successful moving business after family tragedy and incarceration. Deshaun Nelson, 23, started his moving company after realizing how challenging it was to find a job when you have a criminal background. Now he's giving employment opportunities to others with a rap sheet. A West Sider who was incarcerated as a teen is being honored for becoming a business owner as a young man. Deshaun Nelson, 23, will be awarded the Lawndale Christian Legal Center's Emerging Leader Award at the Holistic Legal Aid Group's annual benefit, the Justice Rising Gala. The gala is dedicated to the pursuit of justice, equity, and transformative opportunity for young people on the West Side. The gala, which includes a fundraiser, is 6 p.m. Thursday. The in-person event is sold out, but virtual tickets are available online. So, here's the young man. Nelson owns Mr. Nelson's Movers, a moving company he launched with a single truck in 2020. In less than 2 years, he's grown his business to 3 trucks and 4 employees. I was actually proud of myself. I bought a moving truck. It felt good for the first time. People were surprised I actually did it, Nelson said. Nelson said his father died in a house fire in 2012. The struggle of coping with that loss is partly why he started selling drugs when he was in the 8th grade, he said. He was arrested and jailed multiple times as a teenager, and he struggled to find a job and support himself after he was released, he said. That experience motivated him to start his own business. It started when I came home from jail. I was ready to be legit. I got tired of getting denied from jobs I applied to. My background was so bad, they never gave me a chance, he said. This goes back to what we were talking about earlier, Kit, right? Mm-hmm. Proactive solutions. If you don't invest in the neighborhoods, if you don't provide opportunities, look, you can't condone people's choices to decide to sell drugs as a solution, but if there's no other options out there and they're just trying to survive. Lawndale Christian Legal Center, which represented Nelson in some of his legal cases as a teen, and of course they'd blame his parents, right? His dad who passed away. Mm-hmm. There's no parent to blame there, Mr. McDonald's CEO. Lawndale Christian Legal Center, which represented Nelson in some of his legal cases as a teen, helped him find his first job cleaning up the neighborhood after he was released. The organization connected him with a mentor and resources like mental health services and professional development opportunities. Nelson spent 2 years working on himself, shifting his mindset and unraveling the issues that landed him in trouble in the first place, he said. My outlook was very different. I just wanted to make money. I never thought about nothing else. I never thought about the bad things that could happen to me, Nelson said. Nelson's mentor and support from neighborhood groups like UCAN and North Lawndale Employment Network helped him visualize the type of life he wanted and make progress towards launching his business. It was really just having a mentor who could tell me I could improve myself. I really needed a person to tell me that and guide me, Nelson said. The young entrepreneur also makes it a point to hire others who have a criminal history. Half of Nelson's employees were once incarcerated. As his company grows, he wants to continue to prioritize those who need a second chance, he said. Nelson also wants to inspire other young people and guide them towards improving their circumstances. What inspires me the most is seeing other young people trying as well to start their own business. Multiple people send me messages, me asking how to start this. That pushes me to keep going, Nelson said. Nelson also lost his mother in 2019. He keeps a photograph of her in his moving truck to remind him of why he works so hard each day to improve himself and create opportunities to help people who come from similar circumstances. When his parents were still living, his potential to accomplish great things was always overshadowed by the mistakes he made. Mr. Nelson's Movers is his way of honoring their memory and living a life they would be proud of, he said. The main reason I started everything was from my mom. She always saw the bad things I did outside. That pushes me to keep going harder. Well, wow. I salute Deshaun, toast to Deshaun. Cheers.
Exactly. You know what I'm going to say? Usually sometimes on our shows, be it Heartlands Media or Chicago Corner, we usually end them on some sorrow notes. And, this is one of the few times where we can actually end the show on a good note because here's somebody who made mistakes, Okay, no one's perfect, myself included. No, there's no such thing as a perfect person. But look, he clearly made some mistakes, and he realized he made mistakes, and he's doing something to redeem himself, and more importantly, help others that are struggling. Because when people are released out of the prison industrial complex, they really have nowhere to go.
Yeah.
They have no opportunities waiting for them, and majority of them barely even have like a social network or people that they can rely on to help them out. Usually they're just all left out there on their own, and they just get reabsorbed back into a sick system.
They're shunned.
Yeah, and
They're
then
shunned.
they get put right back into the prison industrial complex. I think we need to see more stories like this, more people like this to step up. And the thing is, I think you know what, if we do have the time or chance, let's see if we can have them on Chicago Corner or Heartlands Media to actually help promote this, because this is something that's needed. Because look at most of the people that are behind bars, they're nonviolent offenders, and all of them are victims of a system that clearly just what happens when you get put into this prison system. It just causes people to be worse, not better. And I'm very happy for this man and the work that he has done and how he's trying to contribute and give back. He's asking for a second chance. Let's give him that second chance.
I'd love to be able to get him on the show. This story reminds me of when I had Melissa Hernandez on, who was a bit more of a victim, right? But to see these people who are just overwhelmed with circumstances beyond their control or beyond their ability to get past, be able to kind of shift gears and change and course correct later, is what's very, very inspirational about this story, and as well as Melissa's. So honestly, hats off to this young man, Deshaun. It shows that there's hope, and I'm not going to say it's easy, but this guy was able to overcome whatever obstacles were still there and turn his life around as he wanted to. I don't think that he wanted to sell drugs in the beginning. Clearly, this guy was desperate, dealing with difficult circumstances, and he's thus proven now, especially in the way that he's giving others a chance and the way that he wasn't given a chance. So kudos to Mr. Nelson.
Good for him. And I wish him all the best. And let's see if we can try and get him on our show, both shows if need be.
Arturo had made a comment I pulled up a moment ago, but he's right. How do you stop a man from stealing? You give him a job.
And a good one too. At least he's helping out his community, and at least he's helping out others like him, because he knows how bad it is out there. And at least here in this city, this is what I always like to say, especially to those on Fox News or any kind of media outlet that wants to say that Chicago's just nothing but violence, crime, and there's nothing good here in this city. I believe in the city of Chicago, there are good people here in the city of Chicago. The city is worth defending. The city is worth helping. And there are people like that man who want to help contribute and reshape just how, again, people can live in this city. And again, we all can redeem ourselves. And I'm really glad that at least we covered this story before we go into the weekend. We're at least ending Chicago Corner on a positive note. And I'm glad that we're doing that.
It sounds like you're saying Gotham is not beyond saving. There are good people here.
There are good people
Batman
here.
Begins.
Of course, Chicago is Gotham.
Chicago is Gotham.
Chicago is Hell's Reach too. So there we go.
That's true. So, Kit, you have some exciting news to share with us. You got a chance to go on Fred Hampton Leftist the other day. You want to tell us about that and what's going on over at Heartlands Media that we can share with our viewers?
Well, right now, Heartlands Media is working on getting guests on our show. So next week, we got some guests coming on our show. I've got to keep that hush because I want to make sure that they're given the proper due respect and everything else in between. Number two, actually, Fred Hampton Leftist, they invited me on their roundtable yesterday, and thank you for covering in for me on Thursday's show.
Oh, sure.
I had a great time talking with all of them. But tomorrow morning, I will be on the Fred Hampton Leftist General Strike Summit early in the morning, 9 a.m. Our time, and I'll be talking about media censorship.
Cool.
Yeah. So,
do you know some specifically what any specific areas of media censorship, like whether it's?
Well, it has to deal with the suppression of independent media, and also why
as it relates to Facebook and YouTube and
also how it relates to the general strike as well. Because again, look, there's a lot of strikes that are happening all across this country, all across the city.
Yeah.
And hello to Kira. How are you? It's all good.
Hey,
Don't
Kira.
worry about it. But we have a we got to talk about the general strike. And the thing is, you rarely see corporate media talk about the general strike. You rarely hear corporate media acknowledge it, and independent media, such as Fred Hampton Leftist and a few other channels, have been talking about the general strike and the need for a general strike and support these workers that are doing this, support for unions and co-ops.
I'm going to put in a plug for myself. I was invited to join KRTD Media tonight at 9 o'clock Central Standard Time. I'll be on with them in a half hour covering some stories. They've invited me to come on and host First Fridays of the month with them. And KRTD Media was out protesting at Netflix I would believe it was Tuesday, in response to Netflix airing this documentary that's smearing Julian Assange. So I want to tip my hat to Shane and the good people over at KRTD. I'll be doing covering some national news with them tonight. We picked a couple of stories that should be fun. You'll be able to find that show. I believe that there's a thumbnail up at KRTD News on YouTube. Anybody that wants to follow me there and get a double dose of me tonight, if you can stand that. Other than that, I guess we're going to bring somebody else on really quickly just to finish our show.
Peg Leg.
There he is.
Oh, hello, gentlemen.
Anything you want to close out with, Peg Leg? I have a feeling I know what you're going to share.
Well, I could help you out immensely, especially if you're getting in the mood for being thirsty. You need a flavor-improving mug from the merch store. Are you
Really,
thirsty,
Peg Leg?
Mr. Cabello?
Well, first of all, how did you get a hold of that flavor-improving mug? Where can people go to get that?
Well, Kit, I am glad that you asked that.
Yeah, where?
If you look in the comments of this video, you will see a link for the Hardlands Media and Chicago Corner merch store. All new merch store with flavor-improving mug technology in the mugs. And we are extremely proud here at Chicago Corner because we have the latest version of the flavor-improving technology in our mugs, whereas Hardlands Media mugs in the merch store have the 20% flavor improvement technology. The Chicago Corner mugs have 25% flavor improvement.
Okay.
We need that extra boost.
Hey, wait a minute. I don't know about this. Is this scientifically proven?
It is scientifically proven with an asterisk.
Okay, fine.
The asterisk is me saying it's 25% more flavor improving.
So make sure you check out the link below for the flavor improving mugs, the mugs that improve flavor.
Thank you, Peg Leg. One of the few times where you're telling the truth. So thank you.
Well, as always, let me get the there we go. Peg Leg is headed out to go start another fire somewhere. Listen, we're going into the weekend here. I hope you all stay safe. Watch out for each other. Be vigilant. And remember, if it's happening on the streets, you'll hear about it here on Chicago Corner. Good night, everybody. And thanks, Kit, for joining me tonight.
As always. Thank you.
All right. Good night, everybody.